you crazy tubers, welcome to my channel. My name is Sky and this is Sheiky Life, and I am currently in this video 36 weeks pregnant. This was recorded a couple weeks ago, but I'm just now getting around to editing it and such. So this is a meal prep video, and there's going to be some breakfast meals and some supper meals, and here I am splitting up a bunch of bananas because one of me and my partner's favorite things are banana bread. And I sure as heck made a lot of banana bread muffins, you will see in this video. Now what I'm doing here is all the ones that are on the plate here that you see in the video, they are actually frozen bananas I took out of the freezer, and all the ones I'm peeling I'm actually shoving into the freezer. That way they will be like nice and soft and mushy when I go to take them back out. I've tried using fresh bananas. My muffins just became really clumpy and pretty disgusting, to be honest, so this is a surefire way. If your bananas are frozen, they mash up very, very well. Now this day was for sure freaking exhausting for me. I spent all day long, and it was in the middle of a heat wave, and running your oven during a heat wave is not very convenient. So I am doing these meals to help me out postpartum. My partner is not really a cook, he doesn't bake, so I really wanted to have some food that tasted pretty good. So here I'm measuring out some flour, some sugar, all the ingredients on the counter is what I use for my banana bread. I will link below what the recipes are that I use in this video here. I put some cinnamon in there. I always put a little bit of extra cinnamon than the recipe requires. And a funny story here, this is some baking powder. This is the first time I actually ever used baking powder in this recipe. I don't know if I prefer baking powder or baking soda. When I use the baking powder, I find my muffin just cracked a bit on the top. I probably use too much, but when I use the baking soda, it's a thicker type of muffin. Either way, they taste pretty good. So first I am mixing all my dry ingredients together, and then I'm going to add in my wet. So there's vegetable oils I'm adding in, and I have some half melted bananas here. I just put them in the microwave for a few seconds just to quickly melt them since they were from the freezer. And you can see how easily they mash up here. So I'm going to add that in as well with the vegetable oil. And I'm also going to add in some almond milk and some water. Alright, so all that's left is really mixing all those ingredients in very, very well. You really want to make sure your bananas are well incorporated into that. You could also use a hand mixer. I personally do one batch at a time, strictly because, especially with pregnancy brain, I lose count really, really fast. Like, I'll be like, did I use 2 cups of flour or 1? Like, I really lose count really, really fast. So I'm spraying down these muffin tins here. If you guys have never used some spray on your muffin tins, I suggest it. Previously, I used to never spray my muffin tins because they're fairly new, they're non-stick, but man, it makes cleaning so much easier. So here I'm just scooping them all in. I'm filling up the cupcake pan about 3/4 way full, and it makes 24 muffins per batch here. You could also add nuts, chocolate chips, or really anything you want to these muffins. Either way, they're going to taste good. And then I'm going to just shove them in the oven and cook them until they're fully cooked and a toothpick comes out completely clean. So for this first batch, you could tell it's a little bit different than my other ones I'm going to be showing you guys. It's really cracked along the top, so that would probably be my mistake from putting too much baking powder. That's the only thing I could really guess. The other ones I put a bit more baking soda and less baking powder. And when the muffins were cooking, I actually prepared a second batch of batter. That way it's ready to go and I could just continue going. Alright, so between every single batch, I also did try cleaning the muffin tin. I didn't make sure it was perfect because I was going to just cook more muffins, but I did wash them, but I did forget to spray them, but that's okay because they still came out in one piece and they still taste pretty darn delicious. I actually ate a batch of them just recently, just because it is a couple weeks forward, even though I'm not postpartum yet and I'm still pregnant. So this is what they look like. You can tell the difference between first batch and the second batch here. And I also did a third batch. So I was not joking when I said I made a lot of banana bread muffins. And this is what this batch looks like cooked as well. This one I didn't even put any baking powder at all. I just used baking soda. You could really tell the difference between all of them. And this is all 3 batches right here. I believe I only made 3 batches. My goal was to make 4, but when I noticed how many muffins this made, I was just like, this is enough. So this is another recipe. This one actually didn't turn out right, but I figured I would show you guys anyways because it's just trial and error and you just learn as you go. So for the first time ever, I wanted to make some blueberry muffins. So that's what I did. I tried whipping it all up. I followed the recipe exactly as it said, measured everything exactly as what it said, but they just didn't turn out. I'm going to show you guys what they look like, but they collapsed and it was pretty much just made like blueberry jam. I don't know if it's because I put, like you've seen when I dumped the blueberries in, there was a lot of water that went in there from rinsing them, or maybe I put too many blueberries. I don't know, but this made me really sad because the blueberries did taste really sweet and they were really, really good. So like the whole bottom of the muffin was pretty much just like a blueberry jelly. Another mistake that I did was while doing this, I wanted to move on to my next breakfast meal, which would have been breakfast burritos. So I laid out a bunch of bacon on an oven pan baking sheet, and I put it into the oven while the muffins were cooking. So I think this is where one of my mistakes, where the collapsed as I opened the oven, I think. But again, it wouldn't have bothered me if they were collapsed muffins as long as they tasted good, but they really just did not taste very great. So this is what it looked like with all together. A very, very, very important part of meal prepping is cleaning up as you go. So I am cleaning up all my surfaces between every single thing that I cook. So I'm just gonna clean up, wipe the counters, and then get my next ingredients ready. So here I am working on the breakfast burritos. This is actually the first time I make them. They're pretty good. I used a lot of eggs. I didn't think I would need this many eggs for breakfast burritos, but I did. My goal is to make about 20 of them. I believe I cracked like at least 24 at the very least. I think I used 2 cartons, but I could be very wrong on that. So I just did small batch after small batch. I add some pepper, some almond milk, and sometimes I add a little bit of water just to make it extra puffy. And you can see in the background that I am checking my blueberry muffins just to see if they're ready, and they weren't. I actually cooked them for double the time that the recipe said because they just weren't coming out with a clean toothpick. I don't know if that might have been my mistake as well. I'm also just letting my pan heat up while I'm checking the bacon as well. My oven doesn't cook very evenly, so you can tell some of the pieces were cooked and some of them weren't. Next I'm going to add my scrambled egg mixture here. Well, first I'm going to put the butter, then the scrambled egg mixture, and I'm just going to scramble it up just like you would do regular eggs. You just keep scraping the bottom as it cooks and it makes scrambled eggs. So something that I did forget to put inside of this batch are onions. I did do it in the second batch and I just mixed them both together. I just cut up an entire small onion, which you see right here. I put it in my food chopper, which is a lifesaver, guys. If you don't have a food chopper and you cut a lot of vegetables fairly small, definitely go ahead and get one. It makes cutting onions like 10 seconds long. So I'm preparing the second batch here. The way that I cook onions in my breakfast burritos is I cook the onions first a little bit until they start getting translucent, and then I add the egg mixture on top. I do that because I don't like, I love the flavor of onions, but I don't like the texture of them. So if they're cooked previously, you won't have like that crunch or that texture, and since I cut it so small, you still do definitely get the flavor. I love the flavoring of the onion. And when you cook in the butter like this, the butter actually gets infused with the onion flavor, which makes it so much better and so good. So I'm just doing that second batch. I'm going to add my egg mixture, and I'm just going to mix it all together. and I'm gonna start putting it all together. In the background, you see that I was trying out one of those muffins to see if they taste alright. Again, I really did not like those muffins. I really hope you guys don't hear in the background, but my fan is running. It is so hot, and it's currently another heat wave here where I live. So for another batch, I also wanted to try some turkey bacon. I don't usually get turkey bacon, and I bought the wrong kind. I wish I would have known, because I cooked it and I pieced a bunch together, and I really don't like that turkey bacon. I'm also trying some cheese for the breakfast burritos, because I can't survive without cheese. Cheese is so delicious, and I eat it on absolutely everything. Again, if you guys make breakfast burritos, literally put any ingredients that you want. Bacon, no bacon, bell peppers, onions, cheese, none of them, sausage, like literally put anything that you want in it. And this is how I assemble it. I put some scrambled eggs, then I put a slice of bacon that I cut in half, just so it fits properly, and I also put some cheese in it, and I just rolled it up like a wrap, and then I put it in this casserole dish just to have it hold together for when I'm ready to package them all up. I did wait until the egg cooled off a little bit, because I didn't want my burritos to be like all sweaty and watery. You really don't want it to hold all that liquid. And I did it until I ran out of eggs, because I did cook a lot of freaking eggs. I think I had one tortilla left at the end of it. And so this is how I package them. So I put about 4 or 5 burritos per bag. I use a Ziploc bag, and I suck the air out so they don't get freezer burnt. And then for the turkey ones, I put tea on it. And for the bacon ones, I didn't put anything on it, because I just made those 2 types. If you're making a lot, or you make these frequently, definitely put the date on it. But personally, I don't do a lot of freezer meal prep, so I don't need the date. I'm not planning on making any more until I eat them all. And for the muffins you see here, I put 9 per bag, and I suck the air out as well. I do make other types of muffins, which you'll see right after this, and I made a couple bags that's a mixture of both. I also put them in my fridge freezer just temporarily, so they freeze flat, so that way when I put them in my deep freeze, there's no problem. So this is my other type of muffin. I actually just grabbed a bag mixed, whatever works, whether you use a bag mix or you do it all from scratch. I just follow the direction on it, and it's an oatmeal chocolate chip muffin. I'm personally not a huge fan of oatmeal, but I do know it helps with breastfeeding, and I'm planning on doing that. So I'm thinking, even though if it's a pre-mixed muffin, that there's still oatmeal in it, and it might help me out. If not, there's chocolate chips in it, so I do still like them. So here I am, just preparing my pan, putting them in. So I think this ended up making 24 muffins as well, and I just followed the directions on the bag. And now we are starting our supper meals. So for supper meals, I tried using the same ingredients for all of my meals. This just makes it much more budget friendly and a lot less wasteful if you don't use all your ingredients. So I am making, first off, a chicken meal. The chicken was on sale, so that was great. They discounted it at $7.50 for a package of 4 fairly large sized chicken breasts. And for this chicken meal, I'm making 4 Ziploc bags, and it is a crock pot meal, but I'm sure you could probably make it in the oven as well. So something convenient about doing this is it's all ready, it's all chopped, it's in the freezer, there's no waste, there's no mess, you don't have to chop anything. And my partner, who's not a very good cook, doesn't need to do anything. He could just thaw out the bag and pop it in the crock pot for me, which makes it much more convenient, and there would be no mess other than washing the crock pot. So I diced up some celery, and now I'm dicing up some onions. I find this recipe kind of reminds me a little bit of chicken noodle soup, just because of the base of celery and onion, I believe. This is really good served on rice. So I'm just separating the onion between all of the Ziploc bags. And then next I am going to actually do the chicken. So I used 2 packs of the 4 packs of chicken breast, and I chopped them all in half. That means that cooking is a lot faster, and I put two chicken breasts per bag, so two 2/2 of chicken breasts, if that makes sense to you guys. And I hate cutting raw chicken. I don't know about you guys, but the only time I don't mind cutting raw chicken is when it's partially frozen still. It makes it so easy to slide your knife in it when like the outer layer is thawed but the inside's still frozen. But my chicken was raw, so that's what I had to use. So I'm just gonna cut every single one of them. If there's any like gross parts like the veins or whatever inside of it, I cut those out. If there's a lot of fat in it, I cut it off too, but a little bit of fat's not gonna hurt anybody. Usually I don't have a problem with chicken breast and I don't really have to cut much off. Now I'm just gonna take out my oatmeal muffins, make sure that they're fully cooked. I am multitasking. It is a really important part of this, and you can see on the clock it's 11:05 p.m. guys. Like, it was so late. I was also recording this on July 1st, which is Canada Day, so there was fireworks going off in the background. So the final ingredients, well, one of the final ingredients is mushroom soup. So it's 1 can per Ziploc, and I also add some pepper, and I also added some garlic powder. I just don't think I caught that on camera because I kind of forgot about adding the garlic powder until later on. So it's 1 full can per Ziploc bags. Now you can see you don't need any fancy contraptions. It would help if you had like a Ziploc bag holder thing, but you could just use a bowl, and you just don't have to spend extra money. These meals were dirt cheap. Like, celery's like $1. An onion's less than $1, and so on. The chicken was $7.50 and it made 2 meals, so literally these meals are definitely under $10. Now, to seal these bags, do not suck the air out like we did with the pastries. Just push the air out, mix it all together, and lay it flat. If you suck the air out, it is raw chicken, guys, so be smart. Don't get yourself salmonella, and definitely don't blame me if you decide to suck the air out. You have been warned. So I am just laying all these bags flat, and then I'm going to also put them in the freezer and they will freeze flat. And I am also writing the date, not the date, what the product is and how long to cook it for. And you can see me just laying it flat right now. But then later on, and I do put it in the deep freeze when it got frozen solid. Now this is my last supper meal, and it's actually chicken noodle soup. It's very basic, easy to do. But it's very convenient to have bowls of chicken noodle soup when you just don't want to cook. It is healthy. It might be a little high in sodium, but it's still good. So what I'm doing is cutting my chicken breasts in half to make cooking them a lot faster. And I'm actually boiling them in a separate pot because I've tried cooking them inside of my pot of soup with all my veggies, and it does like this white, like all the fat, I guess, floats on the top, and it's really hard to completely scoop out. So I like doing it into a separate pot and shred it and then add it to my main pot. So here I am using that celery again, and I'm dicing it up. I'm also keeping the ends of the celery for my guinea pigs. I do have guinea pigs and they love it. If you don't have it, you can also put it in the freezer and make vegetable broth with it when you have enough ingredients for it. So I really like my chicken noodle soups really chunky. Like, I like a lot of stuff in them. So I got the celery, I've got some carrots here. I prefer usually using the long ones, peeling them and chopping them up. I like the thicker carrots, but I had baby carrots on hand, so I just thought I'd use that. I like a lot of ingredients. I want my soup to be filling, not like I need like 10 bowls of soup just to feel full and then still need like grilled cheese and stuff with it. I really like my soup filling. So I ended up using the rest of this bag of baby carrots, and I'm just chopping them up evenly, trying to get them all the same size here. And this is what it looks like with all my veggies done. Well, all my carrots and celery. I still got the onion, so again, I love onion, and I'm going to use that food chopper again to cut it. So to use this food chopper, I cut my onion in about 4 pieces, and I just shove it in it and I pull the strings kind of like a chainsaw, and it really does a good job dicing my onion very small. And again, I used to spend so much time chopping until I got this awesome contraption, which was actually gifted to me by my mom, but I know you could get it at Canadian Tire if you're interested. So I'm adding some water, of course, and I just fill it up. It'll be the amount of broth is the amount of water that you put into it. And next I am going to put it on heat and season it. So I put some black pepper, some parsley flakes. I got some chicken bouillon cubes, which is like chicken broth cubes. I put 2 in there. The thing suggests, like the packaging suggests like 6 for a pot this big, but honestly 2 is perfect. And while that's cooking, I am cleaning up, especially that chopper. You do not want onions sitting in it. It's really hard to wash onion off when it's dried up and crisp on your dishes. But again, it's really important to keep your kitchen clean or you're going to be overwhelmed. So my chicken has been boiling and it is ready to shred. I don't use all this chicken in the soup. The stuff that I'm putting in the container here, which I believe I used about 2 chicken breasts there, is actually going to be for supper for the next day, which we made chicken taquitos. I love chicken taquitos. But then the rest goes towards the soup. So I just used 2 knives to shred it. 2 forks to shred it. I don't like chopping it because it leaves big chunks. And then I put it into the soup just to mix with everything cook. I'm putting some garlic powder here. I think I had just forgotten to add it in earlier on. And I am also checking the veggies to make sure that they're all cooked. Again, I really like my soup chunky. And when my veggies are ready, I added my noodles. So be careful when adding in the noodles. I have experience, so I know about how much to put in. But I've put in so many noodles that it absorbed all the liquid. But as you can see in these containers here, this is what I'm going to use to store them. I like a lot of stuff in my soup. So you can see, compared to the broth, there is a lot of noodles and carrots and celery. I want something filling, something healthy and filling. I have these individual portions containers, and then I made a larger portion with the rest of it in a larger Ziploc. So if I'm feeding both me and my partner, it's easier to just pull out the entire Ziploc instead of making all my individual sized containers. Something important is make sure that all of your ingredients are covered with the broth. That way there's no problems in the freezer. It's all covered in liquid. For the Ziploc bag for storing the soup, I ended up laying it flat and freezing it that way. The containers I just put directly in the freezer as is. So this is all my meal prep, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please subscribe if you want more content. I am documenting my journey to motherhood and a bunch of things in between. I love vlogging, I love making DIY things, and I love just documenting my life, and that's what my channel is really about. So I hope you guys really enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.